Hello, hello, and welcome back to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. I'm so thrilled to have you here with wherever you are, sipping cozy chamomile, a black bold, or just soaking in some leadership and marketing inspiration. Today, we're diving into a conversation with someone who truly embodies the spirit of both thoughtful growth and grounded leadership. I'm talking about Alex Boyd, the co-founder of Aware and founder of Revenue Zen. Alex isn't just building tools to make LinkedIn engagement smarter and saner. Thank goodness for that. He's also spent over a decade mastering the craft of revenue growth across sales, marketing, demand gen, social selling, SEO, leadership, and more. His journey from hands-on sales to founding multiple companies is rich with insights, and today we get to learn from it. I'm totally excited. Alex, welcome to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. That was such a wonderful intro. I have a thought about who might have helped you with that intro. Based on the wording, it sounds
Yeah,
a little bit creatively familiar, but yes, quite familiar.
a little bit.
Very
A little bit.
nice.
It's got my I've trained it.
Ah,
So it's got a little Carrie Flair in there. But
good.
yes, I have help from the dark side or dark. Well, not AI. How's it going for you over there? You using it?
We're back.
Not using
Good.
it?
Yes. Yes, am. The most recent use of AI was in our Costa Rica Airbnb that we just got back from. There was a power outage because they were working on the roads and they cut the power to the whole town. And we had to leave tomorrow, and the gate was electric. So the gate can't open it without electricity. And I was like, okay, well, we're gonna leave pretty early. So how do we do this? So I was able to put a picture of the gate motor mechanism into ChatGPT, and it guided me through like the host had confusing instructions on how to actually disable it, but ChatGPT was like, no, you're in the right spot. And basically it amounted to like pull a little more on that thing you're already pulling on. And I was like, oh, great. And I did. And it disabled the lock, and we were able to open the gate easily with our hands. So I used AI in a very practical sense to like literally help me do. It was sitting in the hot sun, 100 degrees, like futzing with this thing, being like, I opened the latch, it's still disengaged. What do I do? Sent the picture back to ChatGPT, and it's like, no, you're still there. Pull more towards you. It's like, oh, did it. So
There it is.
the
So
fact
nice
that
when
it
it's right.
knew the make and model of the gate motor, it knew yeah, it was like, you should have a small key. I was like, I got my small key. And anyway, it was great. So I use it for business too, but that was the most recent use of AI for me.
And so practical.
So practical. We got out of the gate. The power did come back
Yeah.
on, but we knew we had our backup at that point.
Yeah. You need a backup plan. Plan B. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
important. So how you said you are using it for business?
Yeah.
What way?
Tons. Well, I mean, my co-founder uses it for code. So not vibe coding, but like assist coding, basically. We're not like vibe coding with Lovable and making a serious product because you can't really do that yet. We are about to acquire a small product that was made with Lovable, but it was like it's like a $5,000 purchase price. Like we're not building serious software yet with it. I guess
Just for
sidebar is like
yeah, people listening, vibe coding is when you don't really know how. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but because I just heard this term like yesterday from my husband, who is a coder. But I believe vibe coding is basically trying to code using AI, even though you don't know how to code. So you're sort of feeling your way through it with zero experience.
Yes, and since you don't know software architecture, you can pretty much only vibe code. And so my co-founder, who is an actual software engineer, like enjoys it, but it's like, oh, this is really spaghetti code. But like for spitting out good UI in a few seconds, like being like, I feel like this button should be different. I don't know how, and it just like can give you a bunch of different buttons to choose from, and like that kind of thing is really useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I mean, Aware has a post generator now with AI, but I still am against just like blanket chat GPTing content without anything else. But the reason that ours finally sounds like me in the way that no other tool sounded like me is it's trained and fine-tuned on my past content. And it's not just like prompted with it, it's fine-tuned, which is a
Yeah.
different usage of AI. And most people think, oh, you just uploaded a bunch of documents to a space and prompted it. And no, 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 I fine-tuned it, and that's why it sounds better. So thus far, that's how it's sounding more like me.
Can you just give us
Yeah.
a bit more on that fine tuning aspect of it? How are you actually fine tuning it? Like when it gives you something back, is that you saying why it's right or wrong or how you would tweak it, and then it's remembering
No,
those recommendations? So what do you
no,
mean by fine tuning?
I'm using the actual OpenAI term. So the OpenAI has a I don't know if it's a function or a something where you can actually fine tune a model. So you can only get so many credits of fine tuning, but so we use that. So we're not just saying like me chatting with the output. We're initially it's not a full training of a model, but it's like a mini training on their current model with a certain data set. And we're saying rely heavily on this data set in all these different ways. So it's basically more powerful than prompting, but it's not,
Yeah,
millions of dollars in
take the
training your
level.
AI model or billions of dollars training your AI model. But yeah, so I'm using the OpenAI term for that. Exactly.
Got it. Got
It's
it.
an official
That's
term.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to do it the other way, which is why that totally had chat vibes, but it's a little bit of me versus
Oh, I
the other
thought
way
it was
around.
Elijah, actually,
Oh,
because
look
he
at
is
us
so,
go, Elijah.
yeah, he's so complimentary.
You rang?
And that's why I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like he's really like billowing me up, and I was like, that sounds like this. That
He's
sounds like the
so good
man
about
of the
that.
hour. Yeah, I know. So anyway,
I
that's
know.
why I thought I
He
did
does.
not mean Chad. I meant Elijah.
You meant Elijah. That's fascinating. Yes,
Yeah.
I did get help from Elijah
Okay.
actually, because Elijah told me a few weeks ago. Oh man, maybe it was only a week ago. Was it only a week ago, Elijah?
Oh
Where
no.
you told me that I needed to let my hair down in terms of posting, and that he was so right. It got so dry, and I like took all my personality out of it, and
Yeah.
so that's why I've been telling chat like breathe me into this. Like it's
Yeah.
you have all my content that I wrote before I got really dry and lame. Like breathe me into this, and so
Okay.
yeah. So he did actually influence
Great. That's
the
great. Yeah.
intro. Yeah.
We need to.
That's how I'm training it. I'm using chat similar in terms of coding. Um,
Mhm.
I have a tech stack for website building with Next.js and Tailwind, which I love. I loved before chat, and it's even better with chat because now I can feed the code, like I can write all of my positioning, my messaging, everything in ChatGPT, building a persona of the brand inside. And then when I'm ready to take it to the website, I can say, using this component, rewrite it so it's reusable, so I can reuse the same layout, and then write me a new page reusing that component with this ad copy, with
Yeah.
this copy, and then it just. I mean, I have to tweak it, and there's definitely like a lot of back and forth with it, but it so beats copying and pasting into HTML
Yes.
all day.
Yes, it does.
So, so that's
That's
been an
awesome.
absolute godsend. AI, we are here for it. If you're with us today, hi friends. Hope you're here. If you're here with us, tell us how you're using AI. It doesn't have to be ChatGPT. It could be Claude. It could be anything. It could be how you used it to open that thing that just would not unlock, or how you're using it in business. But either way, we totally want to hear from you. Alex, I gave that intro that was spiced up by Elijah's feedback, my personality, and a little chat GPT, but that's not really the story. So tell us, where are you now? And man, I mean, I know some of the backstory, but how you got there is just such a ride. Bring us along.
Lots of tea. So I guess the journey started when I thought I would be a little hedge fund investment banker guy, and then was sort of like nudged away from that path, and ended up kind of adjacent in brokerage but sales, and then lost my patience with that and ended up in like tech-ish sales, and then sales leadership, and then kind of like sales leadership and SDR, and kind of then after that consulting, and then had a partner in that agency who was better at content marketing, And so kind of learned, picked up that and lead more toward that, and then ended up becoming known as like a marketing guy. Um, and exited the agency last year, which was mostly an SEO agency. Still have a lot of interest in that and the whole portfolio that it's part of. And awesomely enough, they're getting plenty of leads from LLMs at this point, which is great. It's just like a whole other thing to dive into is like
Oh yeah,
AI SEO is so much
definitely.
different, but also it's kind of
Not
not
at
and kind of
all.
this. And so yeah, but we're all getting plenty of leads still from search, whether from Google or other search. It's still search. It's still people looking for things. And anyway, so which is a good segue into where I am now, because I am trying my best to understand human behavior. And people looking for things is not a marketing channel, it's a human behavior. So people look for things. People have, I mean, there's a lot to go on about like how the sales behavior helped me in marketing, because I understood the stranger danger that you need to get over in sales, and how that in people's brains is very hardwired and not vibe coded, but very hard coded into the hardware of what we're working with. And oftentimes marketers who haven't sold don't really get that as well as they should. So yeah, all of this to say, I happened to see a particular part of growing the agency, which was LinkedIn, that needed work. And Aware, the current company I'm a co-founder of, as my main focus, is a LinkedIn tool for B2B and small to big B2B, but that focus of LinkedIn. So not like necessarily managing your huge audience, but more like, growing if you're from 2 to 20,000 followers, usually, like growing and using it for building pipeline. I do happen to have my Wildfront shirt on. Is it mirrored? You
Nice.
probably can't see that. Anyway,
No,
it
it's
says
not. It's
Wildfront.
totally
Oh,
not
it's not.
mirrored.
Okay, cool.
Looks great.
So yeah, we are about to make our first acquisition of a different SaaS product. We plan to keep doing that. It's a very small one, but we'll keep increasing our purchase price as we grow confidence. But we're building the kind of operating system for SaaS now. So now that started agency, grew agency. Okay, I sort of saw how to do that. Picked one problem, made a SaaS out of it. Now I'm like, okay, well, what else can we understand and build a system for? So the next, I think, level is making the business systems behind fast growing products and managing them well, profitably. And so that's where we're here now doing. It's
So
kind of
does
the
that
last 10, 12
is
years
that
of
a is that a feature? Sorry, I'm so impatient and
great.
excited.
Yeah,
Um,
I do.
is that a feature that's going to hook up to Aware, or is it separate but they'll hook up through, or like do they do two totally different things but you need them both?
The
How are these things
acquisition.
gonna work or not work together? Yeah.
Well, it hasn't closed yet, so it's not for sure. But we have they're just confirming the APA, so like I'm pretty sure it will. It's
Look at all
totally
this
different.
tea,
Nothing
folks.
to do
Look
with
at all this tea.
so much tea. Is totally separate. It's like um it doesn't touch LinkedIn in the slightest, which I love. I'm low key sick of LinkedIn. I enjoy it, but I've been doing it for so long. I'm just like, oh my God, the
I don't think you're alone.
same thing over and over. So
You
yeah, no,
are
it's
not
totally different,
alone.
which is great. I'd like just like niche utility tools, like things that, make people's lives easier. They don't cost that much, but they're easy to run. Just like it does the thing you want, pay
That's
us
the
some money for.
thing. Thank you
Yeah.
for working product. Speaking of a working product,
Yeah.
um, I know, folks, I broke protocol a little bit here, as Alex wears many, many hats, and so I want to be thoughtful and transparent of the fact that I totally use Aware and freaking love it. My favorite feature is that it hooks up to HubSpot. So
Mm,
whenever a new connection happens, it hooks up to HubSpot. Not because I'm then messaging those people who are trying to hunt down their email address and start
yeah.
bombarding them when they didn't ask for it. Don't do that. But because when they do become a solid lead or customer, I get to see where they originally came from and if it truly was LinkedIn. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's all sort of hypothetical right now. I'm market. I love that you're building in public. I'm marketing in public, where I'm sort of sharing my journey of
Awesome.
how I'm doing my marketing to build my own agency up, but that's sort of one of my hypotheses of, can I see this? Is this going to work? So
Yeah.
I also love, the other thing I love is I think that the, is it influencer or there's like 3 breakouts of your newsfeed of the
Yes.
type of people who are posting, and to actually be able to see the people I follow and their content and be able to like and comment, and engage on it is way better than actual LinkedIn. I find LinkedIn infuriating because I'm like, I don't know these people and I don't care about their content. And why am I seeing it? And where are my people? So
Yeah. There's so many Reddit posts that are just like, how do I get a feed of just people I want to follow on LinkedIn? It's so infuriating. Like literally what you just said is like that's the title of many Reddit posts. So that's not the first
yeah.
time using the frustration. Have you used the influencer discovery feature yet? Or is it's just
Yes.
rolled out? You did. Okay, cool. So I'd be curious to hear. I mean, it's a little bit of a divergence, but that's like I want to build my own list. Let me find new people. And because how would you do that on LinkedIn? It's like, how would you build a list of cybersecurity influencers? Hard to do. You'd have to just sort of know and scroll a bunch.
Yep.
And so now you can
Yep.
search our database and stuff. So I'm
It's
glad that you're
exciting.
using that too.
I haven't I've only dabbled. I'm excited to
Yeah,
like dive in. I'm working with
great.
my counterpart from a sales perspective is Ashley.
Hmm.
Um, and so she has it as well. And so we're both sort of tag teaming and making sure that I'm marketing one to many from a marketing perspective, and she's all sort of that one to one. And so we're trying to make sure we're working with similar folks, both
Nice.
from influencer standpoint as well as a prospect standpoint. So that's been a fun journey, and
Great.
being able to be in the same tool is super helpful. And I think we wired her aware up to HubSpot as well. So she's got everything piping in.
That marketing
Um,
sales alignment. It's beautiful.
the
People
dream,
did wrong. Yeah.
the dream, living the dream. You had a wonderful conversation 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago with Brianna Doe and Morgan
Mhm.
Ingram.
Yeah.
Um, I follow both of them. They are wonderful humans, and way to like. I think you called them giants of LinkedIn. Like totally, the 3 of you
Yeah.
hanging out talking about LinkedIn is so. I learned.
It was
Oh
unhinged.
man,
I loved it.
Morgan was like
He was off the
just
chain. He was
spilling
out of
all the
pocket.
tea. He was like, "Here's how
Yeah.
you do everything." I was like, "This is amazing. Thank you, Morgan." But the big conversation that I sort of want to like give people, you should go find the show. We'll drop it in the comments so you can go check it out if you haven't watched it yet. Because why I watched it was because I had the same oh shit moment that everybody had at the beginning of March of like,
Yeah.
I've been working my tail off to get the crumbs of impressions that I did get. And now I'm getting like wisps of dust in the air in terms of my impression volume. What just happened? And I had all these hypotheses and I was throwing them out to the LinkedIn community and I was talking to people and I was like, what did I do? How did I screw this up? And I didn't. It was a LinkedIn move.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little synopsis of like what just happened and why did we all like get undercut in terms of our impression volume? We'll get to why that matters or doesn't matter in a second, but our big question was like, what just happened?
Um, there's been a few rounds of this. So the even more recent one is that LinkedIn is now showing you, for whatever reason, many people that they have twice as many impressions as they actually do on their summary, and they don't, and the posts haven't changed. So that's even more confusing. People are like, is this going to be reflected in Aware? I was like, well, it's LinkedIn's bug right now, so not yet. But
Oh, so the data in Aware doesn't even match the data in the platform of LinkedIn.
well, so we sum up all of the post impressions, which haven't changed,
Uh,
and that's what we show you as your total post impressions. And then LinkedIn, the post impressions haven't changed, but the summary impressions is wildly different by roughly 2x, but not quite 2x, and we don't know why. So jury's still out. We do it the way you would think you do it, which is you sum up all the posts, all the impressions of the post, and that's your sum. LinkedIn's like, JK, we'll do it some other way. We won't tell you how. So anyway, March 2024, there was a big sudden drop in median post engagement. I'm like, okay, why? There was definitely an algorithm change. But the total user growth in the US on LinkedIn is about 1.5% a year ish on average. So there's not a lot of difference in demand for content. So with relatively fixed demand and increasing supply, you have LinkedIn saying, okay, how are we going to reorganize and redistribute this supply across all the demand? And then you see people, gaining and losing and so forth. A lot of it, like the change happens and then it kind of moderates back, and there's a smaller change after a few weeks. Mine is not much different, for example. Some people say theirs is much different. I don't exactly know why. They have said why, but as with SEO, I never really believe all of what the platform tells you about how they think you should use it. So there's that, and so I don't always believe what they say on that front. Like they say, we're planning to nuke the comment to get X tactic, but clearly they haven't. So there's
Yeah.
that. I don't know why some people have gained or lost reach in a big way. I know that over time there's more supply and demand is increasing much slower. So there's going to be a continued whittling down of the ability to get lots of free reach, like we've been able to do for 20 years on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. For me, 8. And it might be on comments, but it's too eerily similar to like the 2x number. For that maybe to be the case. We are going to start trying to measure post comment impressions too, but for now it doesn't seem to make total sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, comment
It's
impressions are
super
coming
weird.
anyway.
Yeah, one of the things that Morgan said that I thought was super helpful was like, well, this isn't the first rodeo. And he talked about the different platforms that have gone through this, Facebook
Yep.
being a big one. And how also, I don't know how true this is either. It was just something Morgan mentioned in relationship to Facebook, is that when a platform has to shift to meet investors and board members and the revenue goals, paying to get more impression volume kind of becomes a thing. Whether that's happening on
Yeah.
LinkedIn or not, we're not sure. He just sort of compared it to, he's seen this isn't his first rodeo, and this is generally how platforms go to sort of carve out impressions so that you have to buy more visibility.
Yeah.
But what I loved, where the conversation really went and where I like sat back and I was like, okay, I'm doing okay, is that actually, even though my impressions came down, my engagement is still about the same. So my
Yeah.
conversion rate, engagement rate, whatever, is high.
Much higher. Yeah, mine's like double what it was a couple of years ago on average. It seems like they're just getting better at showing the right people the posts that they want in the feed, which is overall a good thing.
Yep.
But you're definitely right, and Morgan's right too. Like, there's no reason to believe this is not happening. It is already happening on LinkedIn, where I would do it too. Like, why, if you're LinkedIn, you have the best, really hard to copy network in the world for the people with budget, the most budget. So just corporate executives, mostly in the US and Europe. You're going to start extracting more value from that. And we've been freeloading on that, which is great. I love having been able to freeload, and the freeloading will get more difficult, and you're going to have to pay for more of that at some point. So all of the post inspirational photos and use this same hook, and we all engage with each other, coaches and consultants that don't make any money, but we all want to do well on LinkedIn. Like, that stuff is not professional social media, and it's going to be less and less effective over time as LinkedIn starts to they're already super profitable and have incredible sales efficiency, and they're going to get more efficient with it, which makes sense. So we should just be ready. But do build up that like organic foundation now. So by the time pay to play is much more of a thing, that you're ready for it, and you don't have to pay quite so much to build up an audience as you would. Like, if I started today on Instagram, I'd have to pay a bunch of money to get that going. Versus if I had 100K followers on Instagram, easier. I'd have to pay less budget to do it. Kind of like if you have great SEO, you're going to have to spend less in Google Ads to get the hits on your pages that you want.
Yeah,
So many good analogies here, but
great
that's
analogy.
kind of how I see it today. It's going to keep dwindling
It's gonna keep okay.
organically.
Well, let's talk about organic social for a second because I do think it's an interesting beast, and I do think the goalposts keep changing, which is so frustrating.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of, I also feel like it's a bit. I had this conversation with Elijah a few weeks ago. Actually, we were talking last week about my posts and how they had. He gave me great feedback. Um, but it's this sort of game we have to play as creators to get visibility. And you could say that about SEO too, that it's a bit of a game. But I feel like SEO isn't dependent on users and engagement, right?
Is it not?
To not to the same extent that social is,
Yeah, not to the same
right?
extent.
Not to the same extent. It doesn't hinder like completely like social does, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this gamification that feels more performative on
Yeah.
social and LinkedIn than SEO. And I struggle. I think that's where I sort of start to lose my momentum because I feel like I have to put on this performance
Right.
sometimes to play the game. But there has, you and I had this conversation sort of behind the scenes of like, yes, you have to play the game to an extent, but you still have to speak. It's all well and good to grow, but are you growing with the right people?
Yeah.
And
Um,
so
um,
what are you seeing from that aspect of like this performative thing of wanting to grow, but then also making sure that you get the right audience? It's a tough balance.
it's a good question. What if you, and maybe we can dig into this because a lot of people share that feeling. What if we, so let's just accept that it is a performance. How about we shift our minds and say, we're not going to pretend like it's not.
Mm.
And what if we performed professionally, right? In the way a professional actor would practice their craft. They are choosing parts that they want. They're choosing plays and or movies that they want. They're building their characters in the way that makes sense for them. They're practicing the craft of acting to have to deliver on what it is people coming to see their performances for. Um, I'm a professional performer when it comes to LinkedIn. So I guess the cringe comes from when you don't accept that it is a performance. I have made the jump to saying it is a performance. I'm happy to perform in that way. In fact, I'm going to get good at performing, such that I'm not so attached to it. And if the performance is professional, not personal, I don't have to feel
Mm.
like it's my own identity and like me dancing on TikTok because if the like I said, if it is professional performance, not personal, then we can simply practice our craft at it. And then we can have more choice over, well, what kinds of performances do I want to do? In what way will I perform that craft? Um, Again, if we liken it to acting in that way, you can either be a dramatic person or you can be a well-paid actor. Like being a dramatic person, well, like that's kind of cringy. Like this melodramatic person, I don't want to hang out with. Versus, oh wow, you're a professional actor. Like you did great in that role. I don't know. I'd rather
For
the
playing a
latter.
role. Yeah, that's interesting. Where does the authenticity piece come into that? Because that's where I feel like everybody's screaming at content creators to be your most authentic self. And it's like,
Yeah.
but I'm not this way. Do you know how much energy this is, guys? It's a
Yeah.
lot of energy, like
Tons.
to show up on these podcasts, to write content. It takes me an hour sometimes to write it, even with chat's help, sometimes takes me an hour to write a post to make sure I'm sort of checking those performative boxes, right? And so
Yeah.
that's where I sort of like struggle. People want the quote unquote authenticity, but at the same time, there's this level of performance that needs to like marry to that. And that's
Yeah.
the rubber meeting the road. That's sort of I think, where a lot of our creators, I'll own this too, are kind of burning out.
Right. Um, well, it might help you to know that I don't talk and act in real life, or even frankly on podcasts, the way I do on LinkedIn. And yet people praise my content as being extremely authentic. I think we might have the wrong word there. I don't think people, what's the Princess Bride? You keep using this word. I do not think it means what the people
That's what
mean.
you think it means.
Um, Authentic
That
is not,
movie.
I think what people are looking for is, if we think about the meaning of authenticity, we're looking for some sort of vulnerability, but it's very chosen. Like, I don't think they want authentic in the way that, like, the authentic
Mm,
hole in the wall restaurant that you go to is not particularly clean, right? But you want the
mhm.
hole in the wall restaurant in, Latin America that is clean for some reason, and just like you want only the part of authenticity that you want. And that's what people don't really talk about or admit. It Because people don't know what they want and they don't know how to phrase what they want. So when I post about like stuff that we're doing in life and how that relates to business or whatever,
Mhm.
I'm very much choosing a slice of it to offer, which you could argue is not authentic, and yet it feels authentic to read. So what do we do with this? Well, I think we have to stop trying to be fully authentic, quote unquote, and yet also professional, because there's a contradiction there.
Right.
And because this is our social media accounts that we're operating, we need to operate it with our own goals in mind and not what everyone says we want. So if your goal is to get more cybersecurity SaaS companies to sign up with your agency services, then I do not think you should be authentic in that word. I think you should be appealing to your buyers to convince them that you are likable, trustworthy, and good at what you do. And to the extent that you can make them feel a feeling that they label as authentic, great. But don't get confused about what we're doing. And a lot of people get very confused about
Yeah.
what it is that we're doing on LinkedIn, and that causes them to take an hour to write posts. So the
And
efficiency
burn
comes
out.
in when we lose the idea that we are doing something that we're not doing. Um,
Yeah.
Hence why this all draws back to just first principles in human behavior. But you're not supposed to be authentic on LinkedIn. You heard it here first, folks. Um, that's the secret.
I think that's so helpful because my brain was getting tongue-tied around both of these ideas of like, I need to be I need to play the game in terms of
Mhm.
professionalism, of showing up and being an authoritative voice of knowing what I'm talking about. At the same time, it needs to feel real, just
Feel
right?
real.
It still needs to feel real,
Mhm.
but like it needs to toe the line of that professionalism, right? Like it's when
Mhm.
I think Brené Brown talked about this in terms of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And like it's one thing to show up vulnerable, but it's not showing up to say all the that's going wrong in your life to like
Right.
that's not like emotional dumping into the world is not being vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? And so I
Right.
feel like that's where people are getting confused with LinkedIn and this idea of authenticity of like you need to be overly emotional about it and it doesn't and that's what's going to get the clicks and that's what's going to get the engagement and you know you have to show your personal side and like so I love this sort of definition. It's so helpful. Even for me, I sort of get lost in the sauce of it of like, I got to play the game to get the impressions up and I got to be
Mm.
performative and I have to talk about my kids and I have to talk about life and I have to marry it to business and I have to do all of these things to get the impressions and the clicks up. And it's like to an extent,
Yeah.
to to an extent. And so I I think that's where the playing the game in the algorithm to being there for your audience. And that's really like where I'm trying to I don't know how you feel about this in terms of the role you play, but I became a fractional marketing leader about 2, 3 years ago. And honestly, I think the only reason why I do it is because I get it. Like I am living my audience's life
Mhm.
and I boy do I get it, right? So I
Yeah.
can speak from an authentic place of understanding what they're up against because I'm living it. And so that gives me that authenticity to sort of stand on and say, yeah,
Yeah.
you're expected to do a lot with very little, and it's all on your shoulders, and the struggle is real. And here's how I'm combating it, right? So I I think that's where the performative piece comes in, and where some like I don't know how you did this as an agency owner, right? It's like, how do you, getting my question, I swear, how do
Mhm.
you sort of speak to your audience and stand in their shoes when you haven't necessarily lived it, or in that like that's where I think people are struggling with the platitudes and the people sounding. I just saw a post the other day of somebody being like, can we all stop pretending that we know what we're talking about when we haven't actually done it, please?
Yeah.
Right? So how are you, that's how I'm doing it, right? I'm actually like, okay, if I need to understand my audience, I'm going to go do what my audience is doing. It's freaking hard. How are you doing? You do something similar. You've sort of lived in shoes, multiple shoes, lots of shoes, from sales to marketing to now building a business.
Yeah.
How are you bringing that into being able to speak to your audience and creating that connection in an authentic way without, because you do such a great job of it. You're not, I don't feel like you're
Thanks.
standing on your high horse, talking down to folks, trying to tell them like it is. So
Yeah.
where does that profession, like that performative yet authentic place come from for you? Where do you draw from to get to that?
Okay. Two questions that are related. One is, um, given that you know what you're talking about, how do you perform well? And the other one is, if should people who don't know what they're talking about talk about it, and if so, how? Yeah, no. So the second one is easier. I don't advocate that people who don't know what they're talking about should. So I agree with that. I think you should stick to what you know, and that is, I'm not gonna say creatively defined, but like, I don't mean that you need a certification. I mean you have to know it. You have to have something valuable to offer. Otherwise, your product, your knowledge product, is bad. Um, so let's assume your knowledge product is good. You know something of value. You with marketing. What is the performance aspect of it? Like, so let's say you've already said, which I believe, let's say we all agree that you know what you're talking about with marketing. What do you think you need to do to perform? What does that mean to you when you say that?
Hmm.
I have an answer, but I want to know what you think.
Yeah. I think the performance comes from the additional energy that you are trying to create in a post or even on a stage like this,
Okay.
right? There's an extra level of, I'm a true introvert through and through. And I don't know if y'all know that, but like after this podcast, I gotta go decompress, right?
Yeah.
I'm putting out a level of energy that I wouldn't normally put out. It's why a post
Do
takes me
what?
a while, is because I'm trying to put energy into it that isn't something that comes necessarily. It gets easier with time, but isn't inherently part of who I am.
Pause
I'm
on that. What kind of energy? Energy for you? Energy for them? And if so, what kind? This is important. Energy is just,
Alex.
everything
You
is
turn the
energy.
tables here. Turn the
Well, I
tables
think this
here.
is important to answering my
Okay.
question because
All right.
everyone feels this way. But uh, energy can mean power. Energy can mean anger. Energy can mean a train coming at you. I mean, energy is everything. So, like, what kind of energy and for whom?
Energy meaning um oh, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a forward moving feeling.
Hmm.
Sun is driving me nuts.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, right, like I'm up and I'm smiling and I'm happy and I do feel those things. I'm not putting on a performance where, it's nice because I'm happy to see you and I love how we have this great connection and this great conversation that's just really natural and flows. So it's easier to create that energy than it would be if somebody didn't sort of reciprocate it.
Yes.
But it's I want people to feel happy and have joy when they're watching this, right? I don't want them to feel like
We got it.
boring and right. So I
There
have
it
to
is.
create the joy.
Okay. So that's what I was getting at, because you have defined energy in the sense that people should always feel joy when they see your posts. In a way, right? Or
Yeah.
something
Well, it's
like
my
that.
brand. It's brand, right? It's sort of
That's
part of
your
my
brand.
brand.
Okay, good. And I think this is important. It's deeper than like the tactics of LinkedIn, but this will prevent burnout. Are you as a person always feeling joy?
Well, no. How can we?
So then
If you don't
why
know what
does
it
your
means,
brand
yeah,
always
if you don't,
give joy? I don't always feel joy. Today I posted a cantankerous post because I was freaking annoyed about people spamming my feed. And so my brand, my personal brand, is that I am a person with many different emotions. The brand is that I know how to process them, and the performance is to make it fun, not necessarily fun, to make it compelling to read. I want it to be easy and compelling to read. That is the performance for me. So whatever emotion I have, make it easy and compelling to read. Whatever marketing tactic I discuss, make it easy and compelling to read. That is the performance of it. But you've nailed it when you said, and someone commented the same thing of posting when I don't feel like posting. Well, you probably don't feel like posting something bubbly, is the difference. But maybe you want to post something cantankerous. Now, the skill is, can you channel cantankerous or whatever it is, or angry, into a way that's easy to read and compelling? If you can do that, you won't burn out, because you'll always be able to represent how you are doing in this way. And I am an introvert myself,
interesting.
but I don't change myself for LinkedIn. I just run it through a filter that makes the copy easy to read and compelling. The same thing applies to how I talk on a podcast. I'm probably clearer and more bright than I usually would, and that is a bit of an up energy. So like maybe an increased slight volume, literally, of my voice. This is a louder voice than I'll use. But I'm tightly defining the performance to a few things. I'm not trying to tell you I'm bubbly when I'm not. And if we
Right.
lose that, way more sustainable, right? So I invite you to remove the Carrie is bubbly from your brand and define it more simply. And when you get to the core of it, of what your brand really is, it won't feel exhausting because it's actually authentic. And then we narrow down what performance means, and what just you have marketing tactics. You have literally going through a long post and cleaning up the copy and removing words that aren't necessary. We have making the hook shorter and relying on either a cliffhanger or pain point. Like these are just these are easy things that marketers know how to do. It's all psychological, of the feeling that I have to be someone else that I'm not, when that is not actually appealing to people. They
It's
don't
not.
always want that.
No, I mean, I think it's like it's definitely a balancing act for sure. I don't think people want the same thing all the time, but I also feel like they are here to be entertained to a degree. So, and that
Maybe.
entertainment, to your point, can become in multiple ways in terms of how emotions show up.
Yeah.
For sure. Uh, you know, I generally believe um, that there's enough hate and anger in the world, and so
Yeah.
my wanting to add that joy and that bubbliness is just to take a little bit of that out of the air for people who might be feeling that way that day, because that's just how the world feels right now.
Yeah.
So, but you're not wrong in that does, to do that all the time, it takes energy. So
Right.
if I can,
Draining.
yeah, totally. So, but I do think that I also wonder too of like, I feel like what people are asking for too in the world, and this is where I'm sort of struggling as well, is like, when is it okay and I'm trying to do this a little bit. I'm trying to walk the line of this in my posts of feeling like it's okay to not know.
Yeah. True.
I feel like we all feel like we have to show up and have all the answers. And
Yeah.
with the way that things are going right now and how quickly they're moving, we're all learning on the fly.
Right. Yeah. If we think about, for example, like a corporate marketer thinking, I don't know enough to do this, so I have to pretend like I know. And this was the position I was in when I was in sales, is I responded in two ways. One, I'm committed to showing up only to the extent that I know what I'm talking about. Oh shit, if I don't know what I'm talking about, I must go learn it. So
Fair.
back then it was accounting and tax. So I learned enough about accounting and tax that I could show up only knowing the amount that I knew. So the one upshot of this, like a hard truth that can't be solved with a tool or AI or anything, and maybe if you use it to learn, but like you have to learn the subject matter. So you have to learn enough about cybersecurity or whatever it is that you can talk about it. And
Yeah.
this is, people often want an answer that doesn't involve, yeah, you got to go learn your stuff. But why can that
Yeah, you
not be
do.
the answer? You just have to like go learn your stuff. And then it'll be way easier to show up with the amount of knowledge that you have because you will have had it. And I'm not, I do it having done it before. Like to this day, I have pretty good accounting chops. Not necessarily gap and audit. Like sometimes I struggle with, like, for example, like the finer points of when a liability should be recorded for like a contingent liability on acquisition. I got schooled. I was like, I thought it was recorded then. It's actually recorded now. Cool. But
Yeah, I know.
I know enough to know a lot about it because I just dug into it and was like, I'm going to come out when I know a lot. And then it was
Yeah.
easy for me to sell. I didn't need to follow a sales process. I just had business conversations. So if you're in marketing, same deal. I mean, I wish you would have chance to be in sales marketers, because then you'd be
Yeah, we're
forced
right.
by having conversations with prospects who would tell you when you're wrong. And you'd feel that in your body of
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. And let that propel you to go learn. Social media becomes so much easier when you're compelled to go learn your stuff and then come back out and talk about it. So
Absolutely.
don't perfect.
I am a learner by practice, right? I can't just go, for cybersecurity, I can't say that I know what the audience goes through or be able to, like, that's why the brand has got to own messaging. That is not anything that I can help with. That's not my job, nor should it be, because I don't know the product and the industry the way that the marketer needs to know it. Now, from an
Yeah.
SEO perspective and a digital ads perspective, we know the platforms, we know the best practices, we know how to help you get seen. That's our job. But we are never going to understand the product and the audience the way that you need to.
Yeah.
And so, and we can't, and then unless we live in those shoes, which is why I sort of went out and said, okay, how do I get to know what marketers are going through? And I learned by doing. So I had to become a marketer on the brand side to do that, right? So for folks out there who like, and you get to apply the finance stuff as a business owner, right?
Yeah.
Which is so helpful. So for marketers who know enough about the product and enough about the industry, but have never sat in a practitioner's seat, right? How do they help their brand show up authentically on social and through their marketing with having never done it? It's one thing to
So
learn to, it's like going to university or college and learning about the thing, but then you have to apply it. If you're never applying it, do you really know it?
I don't. So this is, I think, again, a case of we think we need to be doing something that we don't have to be doing. When we talk about what you know, let's split it into two things. Have you done the job of a CISO? No, and I don't think your job is to have done the job of a CISO necessarily. But what do you know? Well, you have the insider knowledge of the workings of a company that serves many CISOs, for example. You probably speak to a much wider variety of them than each of our prospects do. So you have, for example, two types of information that they don't have: how the company works and why it built the things the way that it did, which presumably at your company, you have the experts that have done that job, right? Founders, executives,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
SMEs. I mean, someone there has done the job, right? And you can learn from
Yeah.
them. You can get the insider knowledge from them. You can usually boil down a lot of the deep insights of a profession to like 10 different things. The rest of it is like good, really good detail and judgment, but you can boil down the key insights to not that many things. So learn the 10 key insights from the people that you work with who you can get a time from. That's number one. And then the second one is the cross-section knowledge. You talk to many more people than each of your prospects does. So you have the knowledge of of the aggregate, but not of the detail. So stop pretending you, or even thinking that you need to have done the job your prospects have done, but instead say, well, what do I know? And what is it my job to know? It's my job to know exactly how our company all works together. And it's my job to be able to talk to lots of these different types of people such that I know what they all think in aggregate. That's how, before I was a startup founder, I had a really damn good idea of how startup founders think and act because I talked to hundreds of them. I talked to many more of them than each of my founder clients. And so I was able to like write emails like them. I mean, before ChatGPT was anywhere a thing, I wrote emails like a Silicon Valley CEO because that's all who we talked to. And so I did,
Right.
and eventually just like was able to write like that. No one taught me. I just soaked it up. So I didn't know how to funnel, but I knew all the like knock-on effects of it. How much should you be paying yourself at each round? What type of entity do you need? Why you can't exactly convert on entities on a dime? Like all these other things. So
Yeah.
if you don't know something, think about, well, what do I know? And what really is it my job to know? It's probably different than you think it is.
I love that. Yeah. No, and I think that's where the performative piece, like that's where people I think are getting confused, and why I wanted to have this conversation was because I think when people think about performing, they have to, and it's the fake it till you make it sort of mentality
Mhm.
of like, if I just pretend that I'm the thing and I'm performing it, then maybe I will become the thing and I will know what I'm doing. And I think that's where people are pushing back on social media to say, can you please stop trying to talk about the thing you don't know? And I think what
Yeah.
you're saying, and what I love and what I think we all need to lean into, is to talk about the thing you do know and what your
Yeah.
expertise is, and to lean into that and to let it be okay. I feel like what everybody's saying, and part of what you're saying too, is it's okay to not have all the answers and to go get them if you feel like it's important to be able to do your job, or lean on the right people to be able to bring that to the table. But I think we all need to get away from this notion of we need to have all the answers, and
Mhm.
or pretend we do, and which and that's not what we're saying when we're saying there's a performative aspect to showing up on LinkedIn. It's more of what the performance is, more of that polished professional aspect, right? When I'm sitting at home at night on on the couch, having my ice cream and my yoga pants, I'm not going to show up to work that way. It's the
Yeah.
same idea, right? How I talk to my friends when I'm texting with emojis. Oh, well, we like to use emojis on LinkedIn. That's fine. And we even like an OMG every once in a while. But how I'm talking to my friends is not how I'm going to show up and talk on LinkedIn. And I just
Yeah.
really wanted to take a minute to create that distinction, because I think that's what people are trying to say is
Yeah.
stop pretending. But performing and pretending are two different.
Yes. You can think of it as polishing, or you can think of it as professional performing, but like get away from the idea that you are
Polishing.
creating personal drama as a way of getting attention, because that's exhausting. And it's also not necessary. It's not
Yes,
necessary.
I love that.
Um,
Yes.
I also want to bolster so then once we've said, don't talk about things you don't know what you're talking about, let's bolster what you do know, right? So like I think people often know a lot more than they give themselves credit for. It's just not the knowledge they thought that they needed to bring out. Um, so like every cybersecurity marketer knows way more about the things that are probably in the cracks. And if I were ghostwriting for them, my job would be to dig into the cracks to figure out what relates back to the main thing and then draw those connections. So the skill is to
Yes,
find,
makes it authentic. Yeah.
yeah, to search your organization and to search yourself to find what you do know. So you don't have to feel like you have to pretend so hard to know stuff that you don't know. And then all of the exhausting part is just faking it, right? Faking it is exhausting. So don't. But then the answer then is not give up. It's, well, what can I do? So be resourceful with what you know and what knowledge you can get rather than giving up. So my choice is not, I don't know the thing, shut up. It's, well, can I learn it, or can I talk about something related but different? Um, I'm just not going to be content with giving up, having accepted that I shouldn't talk about what I don't know. Or if I do, I'm going to be honest that I don't know. Um, I mean,
I
even
could
this
talk to you
podcast,
about.
we've probably done a lot of this has probably gone off script for you. I don't know what your script was, but
Oh
like,
yeah, no,
it
totally.
didn't.
But I love it. I'm here for
Yeah,
it.
it's probably
Um,
an entertaining podcast as a result because we stuck to what ended up being more relevant.
the thing. Yeah, and I think this is where the whole point of the show was to talk about at the end of the day, how do we need to show up on LinkedIn? Not because we want to get the vanity. This is where I do think vanity metrics are a thing. The vanity metric of impressions and engagement for the sake of it, but to truly show up for our audience in a way that creates that natural engagement because we are not only providing value, but we're doing it in a way that has this performative entertainment aspect that's engaging. It makes them want to read it because it's nice to read. It's compelling. Love that word. It's
Yeah,
compelling to read. So I think that's really what I was trying to hit home today, as well as for my own. Like I run into those days where I feel like I have to post. I don't know what to post about, and I'm tired, and I have to put on that energy to sort of find the that performative aspect to get the thing out and to make it compelling. Um, but I think it sort of you took the air out of the balloon in a really lovely way to say that being performative isn't necessarily showing up in a way that's that pretending you to be something you're not and to
yeah,
pretend you know more than you do and to really lean into what you know and your expertise and to still be you. It's still you at the end. This is all me. I'm not
yeah.
pretending to not be me. It's just a certain side of me that's a little amplified than on the
Yes.
everyday. Right. Um, so I could talk to you literally all day and about this conversation. Uh, and maybe we'll just have to have a round two. But I'm so grateful. Is there any last wise words of wisdom that you haven't yet said or that you want to leave us with as we go out inspired to tackle the world of LinkedIn as we build our brands both personally and for our clients and companies?
Yeah, I mean, just to what you were saying, some people ask you to write every day. I would much rather do if I'm trying to get most of my writing in a certain type of emotion or energy, I'll just write a lot when I feel that energy and then I'll schedule that later so that I have a bright post on a day where I don't feel bright. Um, and that's the doctoring of social media that doesn't require emotional labor. Um, so definitely do batch and schedule to fit the randomness and variation within your own life. You might get a bright post from me on a day when I don't feel like that because I had 3 written. I had 20 more drafts that were in draft status, or I literally just copied and pasted a post from 3 months ago and posted it again today, which is perfectly fine. So like, the beauty
Yeah.
of LinkedIn for introverts, especially, is that you can do that. If you're introverted and you go to a party, you can't really repurpose a past party appearance. But on LinkedIn, you can. That's why LinkedIn works so well for me as an introvert is because I can do that. It's great.
Yeah, that's true.
So you use it to your advantage. Let it serve you. Let the asynchronous nature of it serve your humanness, not the other way around.
Oh, yes. Yes, I find that my LinkedIn posts, my best ones actually come when I'm anywhere but at my computer. So I'll be on the beach
Yeah.
with my daughter and she'll be hanging out in the water and I'll have a moment of like, oh, I want to write about this thing. Or
Great.
in yeah, or in the car or whatever. I totally agree. To strike when the iron's hot and then to bank it. I thank goodness for scheduling for
Yeah,
sure. For sure. I
exactly.
love it. Alex, I am so grateful. Where can people find you and we're going to drop a link, a shameless plug of my Aware link in the comments so you can sign up and get your product because this is, all this lovely information about where it's coming from is Alex being able to ingest all this data and see what's happening and bring it back to us in such a thoughtful way, as well as his own experience of LinkedIn. So I'm so wow, what a treat for us all today as we bang our heads against the wall going, how do we crack this code? And
Yeah.
that's the thing is it's not a code to crack. It's just showing up every day and doing our best. That's all we can do.
That's right. Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, as you might imagine. Other than that, it's great to be here.
Last question for you, Alex. I'm going to go on script for this one because it's just one of my favorite questions. Is outside of work and all of these many entrepreneurial things that you're up to, what is currently, speaking of joy, what is currently bringing you joy right now?
Waking up with my 1-year-old cat, like putting his head under my hand to get me to pet him. That brought me a lot of joy this morning. He does that many mornings too. We've been away for a week and a half on vacation, so like he's been at boarding for 2 weeks, so he's very much like, yeah, I want pets. So like that's pretty good. Yeah.
My cat does that too, especially when I have my mouse, my hands on my mouse, and I'm trying to get work done. He comes straight in. Yeah. Pet me instead. Yes.
Right. Don't pet that thing. That's stupid.
Pet me. I'm way more fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you to all the wonderful people who joined us in the comments. We appreciate you. We'll be following up. And to our listeners, as always, I'm so grateful. Please like, subscribe, and share. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing that helps complex brands like cybersecurity get found via SEO and digital ads. It's hosted by me, Carrie Gard, CEO and co-founder of MKG Marketing. And if you'd like to be a guest and have a wild ride of a conversation like we just had here, DM me. I would love to have you on the show. Thank you, as always, to Elijah Drown, my podcast sidekick, and see y'all next time.